I don't like Dean Withers. He's gotten himself into some new controversy.
You think that you have the right to consent to men looking at your son while he's naked?
I wouldn't allow it.
You said that you think that parents have every right to exploit and traffic their children.
He just outright stated that he does not believe that that should happen.
I want to find who you are so I could call CPS and have them take your child away from you.
There's no reason to believe that this guy's a genuine danger to his children. I don't even think Dean thinks this guy's a danger to his kids. In the course of being performative, this is like outright dangerous. You're encouraging people to go find somebody and call CPS, jeopardize his fatherhood, put the kid through that. That is crazy, dude. Dean, he's either doing this performatively or he's genuinely fucking lost it. It is no secret that I'm a liberal, a democrat, a demon rat, and one of the Democrats' issues that they're attempting to solve is, why don't we appeal to young male voters? Unfortunately, I think Destiny was like one of the only influencers that was potentially like good at this at all, appealing to like the young online male crowd with like a liberal perspective. Unfortunately, for other reasons, he's probably not the best representative of that. But outside of that, there weren't really a whole lot of like major influencers that were like appealing with a liberal perspective to young men online. Now, I guess the Democrat Party get a solution to this with people like Harry Sison, Dean Withers, Parker Get a Job, etc., etc. And, you know, they have the talking points memorized. They can debate specific stuff very well. But the problem is they all come off as like very sterile, very fake, corporatized. Like they just don't like feel that much like people, you know, you could relate to with their jokes. I mean, in the Fuentes debate, Dean was like, can we not say retard?
What you're saying is just retarded.
Well, I don't appreciate your use of this slurs. That's what.
Okay, on a side note here real quick, Dean is like super disingenuous here. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, I don't like Nick Fuentes, but Dean will actively posture over him for using the R slur. But on a podcast a few months ago, when Dean's debating a bunch of conservatives and actually is talking to them about why they shouldn't use slurs, he accuses some woman in the room and her fan base of having an 85 IQ as like a witty insult.
And
well, I
got
didn't
a
say
couple
any of
million
that,
views
but okay.
because, you know, all the other like 85 IQers ate.
But there's a clear contradiction here. The R slur, which I don't think I can say on YouTube, like the terms idiot, moron, etc., was originally used in the medical field to refer to people who fell within a specific low IQ cohort due to an intellectual disability. So Dean will grandstand and actively claim to be against the usage of a term meant to refer to people who had a low IQ, and then go on to use an insult that's synonymous with that term. I don't even think he knows what it means. But to me, this kind of demonstrates he's disingenuous because he'll kind of parrot talking points based on whatever's popular within his fan base. But yeah, I thought that was funny to point out real quick. Another problem too was the essential crucifixion and outing of Harry Sison over arguably bad actions, but what was essentially him being like a fuckboy at 20 years old. And if like you're essentially saying to people, if you do this, like you don't deserve to be with us or have a platform, you're not with us, for doing something that a lot of young men are guilty of. And I admit it's not good, but it's something that you're like, you could totally come back from. It's like redeemable, whatever. To totally kick him off because of that, you're further alienating this voter base. Liberalism, a lot of it is about rehabilitation. We use this in a legal context in reference to like prisoners who commit crimes. You could be rehabilitated and brought back into society, but they don't do that when it comes to like social rehabilitation, like somebody doing actions that we think are like arguably bad, like they're just kind of outed and put to the side or gone forever or canceled, as the righties like to call it. When I don't think that's like good. We should like promote them making a genuine effort to change, and if they do, let them back in. You're showing to people like it's okay to do things that are, well, not that it's okay to do things that are wrong, but if you do things that are wrong, it's not going to blemish you forever and you could come back from it. And by kicking Harry Sison off over that, I think that further alienated that fan base. Regardless, while the right was essentially calling Harry a pedophile for his interactions with of-age women, being a boy, instead of taking a hard stance defending Harry from what were largely defamatory claims being cast his way. In a time where his friend would need him, Dean didn't come to his defense. Dean said, I'm done talking to him, you know, I'm done with this guy. Dean cut him off. And I thought that was like insanely scummy. I don't like Dean Withers, mainly as a result of that. But apparently, he's gotten himself into some new controversy on X. So we're going to be checking that out. So to start us off, this clip has been making the rounds.
If I was dumb enough to send my kid in, it's no different than a baby commercial for diapers.
Can you answer my question? Do you think that you have the right to consent to 65-year-old men looking at your son while he's naked?
I wouldn't allow it.
Do you think
That's
that
my
you have the
responsibility as a
right?
father.
Do you think that you have the right to allow it? Do you think if you did allow it, that you would be violating the consent of your child?
They have no choice in the matter whatsoever. It's my decision as the parent, and I wouldn't put my kid in that situation. That's why I think pageants.
But okay, okay, this is a little performative, but yeah, that's like a horrible point, a horrible position to have. Okay, you can't just consent to whatever for your kid. Okay, no, the dad's saying he personally wouldn't do it, but you should just outright say no, I shouldn't be allowed to consent to something like that.
Are weird in the first place. I would never.
Did I pause it? Why is it? Oh, it was still going? Dude, look how still he is.
Amen. Okay.
Okay, this is so you could be like, dude, that's fucking insane. But this is like, dude, so performative.
So here's what we're gonna do. I think that you don't deserve to have any custodial rights over your child. So
the guy did say he would never allow that to happen, meaning he's against something like that happening. But he does believe parents have a right to just consent to things for that, which is a stupid position. But to me, he just outright stated that he does not believe that that should happen. So no, there's no reason to believe that this guy's a genuine danger to his children. No, that would be like an invalid conclusion from this.
for those watching, their handle is goatman91096. It's gonna be their handle. If there happens to be anybody in here that's good at has like facial recognition software, or
You can find me. It's fine. Nothing I said was wrong.
Okay,
I just said that the kid doesn't get to make the decision.
What's your name?
I would never put them in that situation.
Okay, what's your name?
And why are you trying to dox people, dude? That's weird.
Because I want to find who you are so I could call CPS and have them take your child away from you.
So that's insane. That's insane. This guy's a horrible representation for our side. That is an insane thing to say. This guy has not said anything that would... He did an insane... I'm not going to say... He obviously meant it, but I don't think he realized what possibilities he would allow to happen with his position, right? It's stupid to think that you can just decide what happens in general for your kid. But he did say, even though... he did say, I wouldn't do that, right? I wouldn't put my kid in that position, meaning he's against that happening for his kids. He wouldn't do that, meaning he's not going to be, we don't have anything to indicate he is a genuine immediate danger to his child, or in the near future, going to be a danger to his child in any meaningful capacity. There's no basis to call CPS here. He's either doing this performatively, or he's Dean, or Dean's genuinely fucking lost it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure you would like to try to do that.
Yes, I would. So
They would never even do it. That's the best part.
Okay. What's your
Because
name?
I would take the part, and I have a witness sitting here who's heard me say I would never put my child in that situation.
Okay. So what's your name?
So don't worry, move the goalpost too, by the way.
So you said that you think that parents have every right to exploit and traffic their children. So
No, that's not what I said.
Yeah, so I would assume, as I said before, the guy probably... I refuse to believe somebody who can acknowledge that putting their kid in that position is wrong. I refuse to believe he would, like, knowingly consent to what he's consenting, or take the position that Dean thinks he's taking and what you would assume he's taking. I think the guy genuinely is just, like, stupid and doesn't realize what the logical conclusion of what he's just said would be. So now when Dean's following up for a clarification, he's clarifying, no, I don't think that, right? I don't think that should happen.
So I'm not going to debate it with you. That is what you said. So I just put in...
Even if that is what he said, we can logically conclude that that's probably not what he meant, right? That's probably not what he meant.
this out there for anybody. Feel free to, like, take his profile picture. Maybe you could go on to, like, tiktok.com /
And he's now just clarified again. No, that isn't what I meant. So, if you want to, like, take the wording and not, like, be good, like, have any, like, bit of charitability or good faith, and realize that he's probably just, like, he thinks he can, like, argue, like, a certain position, not realizing fully what that position is going to entail, etc., and you just want to, like, disregard any good faith. Sure, you could just stand by that original line of logic and say, oh, well, then that means that you can consent to trafficking your kid or whatever, right? When that's probably not what this guy meant.
his handle. You could save his profile picture, run it through some, like, reverse image search. Maybe it will link back to, like, a Facebook or something.
You're now just, like, encouraging a fan base to go after this guy
Where you could find his...
and get his kid taken. Like, that's insane. It's totally insane. There's nothing here that would warrant this sort of reaction.
name. And if you do find said information...
This wouldn't be me. This actually wouldn't be me. I would never encourage people to call CPS during a debate unless someone's given me a genuine reason to believe they're probably an imminent or future danger to their child. Okay, so if somebody admits to me that they think that it's okay for them to be punching, if they admit to me that they are or plan on punching their kid violently in the face or something, yeah, at that point I'm probably gonna say, yeah, we should call someone. Like, that kid's probably in danger. If you're admitting to me you're punching your kid in the fucking face. But here, the guy's trying to argue some sort of position, albeit I don't know what it is. And in the course of this, Dean's gotten him to say something where, yes, the logical follow-up would be that the kid could consent to that he could consent to anything on behalf of his kid. But that's not, obviously, that's wrong. That's wrong. You shouldn't be able to consent to anything on behalf of your kid. But like logically, that's where it would follow. So you can use that to prove to him why his argument is bad. But that doesn't mean he's subscribing to the same logical follow-up as you. He could just be a moron. It's like you would have to clarify further that he actually thinks he can consent to trafficking his kid.
That's public, by the way.
You're more than welcome
Feel
to.
free
There's
to,
nothing
feel
wrong
free
with
to
what I
take that
said.
information and report it to CPS. Feel free to take that information and report it to like the law authorities in this area. Feel free to take that information and report it to maybe his local CPS,
This is not the modern left. This is one person.
etc. Child Protective Care, Child Protective Services. Feel free to do that. I'll go ahead and leave him on the live for around another 20 or 30 seconds here before we kick him, just so you guys, anybody that's interested in trying to do this, can like grab his profile picture.
So the guy has actually literally just said to him already, I actually don't think that. And instead of Dean like being good faith and trying to clarify what he actually means, Dean's now just like made an assumption that this guy
It's out there for
this
everybody.
guy
Feel free to,
subscribe.
like,
When you're trying to prove someone's like standard incorrect, you present them with a scenario where their standard is in place, where a conclusion would happen that they admit we should prevent, right? Like, for example, if somebody's of the position, I don't think people should be allowed to legally use intoxicants, and then they argue, yeah, people should be able to buy weed or whatever. You would then present them a scenario. Okay, well, if people can legally buy and smoke weed, and weed is an intoxicant, then your standard would contradict your other one. So you'd have to revise it, right? That's how you're proving someone wrong. But that doesn't always mean the person could just think of these things separately and be a total hypocrite and not realize they're in contradiction with one another. And that's why you clarify with them, right? And Dean doesn't even do that with this guy. The guy even quite literally says, no, I don't think that. And Dean's like, well, you kind of technically said it before. And then just is going to kick him from the live 30 seconds after. So this is like super bad faith. And I don't think Dean believed that this guy was actually going to be a genuine danger to his kid. I think this is like super performative. But I also think that like in the course of being performative, this is like outright dangerous. You're encouraging people to go find somebody and waste law enforcement's time and waste child protective services time and put the family through a hassle that isn't necessarily warranted. You could say, oh, well, this is out of context. Okay, apparently the original VOD is deleted. So yeah, all we have right now to go off of, to my knowledge, is like this 7 minutes. It was about Trump looking at Miss Teen USA girls in the dressing room, allegedly. The allegations about Donald Trump and Miss Teen USA contestants, as waves of allegations against Donald Trump's inappropriate behavior towards females swept over the presidential campaign, reaction from around the country was swift during an October 12th, 20... Okay, wait. 4 women who competed in the 1997 Miss Teen USA beauty pageant said Donald Trump walked into the dressing room while contestants, some as young as 15, were changing. I remember putting on my dress really quick because I was like, oh my God, there's a man in here. Trump, she recalled, said something like, don't worry, ladies, I've seen it all before. Of the 11 contestants who said that they don't remember Trump coming into the changing room, some said it was possible that it happened while they weren't in the room or that they didn't notice, but most were dubious or dismissed the possibility out of hand. Okay, so the other thing that Dean does too, we have a lot of great points to get at Trump for, okay? We can go at him for the comments he made with Billy Bush. I mean, those also, yeah, we can go at him for the comments he made with Billy Bush. We can go at him by Trump's, like, his fan base's, like, own standards for what, like, classifies somebody as a creep. I mean, they drove Tom Hanks off Twitter because they believe he's in some, like, global, like, pedophile cabal, but, like, we could bring up Trump's Epstein Association, et cetera, et cetera. But, like, a lot of time people like Dean will take random claims people have made about Trump and like argue them as though they were fact. Now, I don't know if the debate was being done under, okay, presume that this actually happened. Do you think it's bad? But Dean seems to, in the conversations I've seen, actually list these things as though they've like been confirmed to happen. And like we have so much to attack Trump on, right? We have so much. You have his policies. You have even personal aspects of his life. Dude, you want to know something really pathetic that is okay, it's not fully confirmed, but you could just listen to the tape. Trump used to call in to news and radio shows back in the day when he was in business under fake names like John Barron, where he would literally glaze himself pretending to be a friend of his. It's like the Obama giving Obama a medal meme when he was in business. And there are recordings of this on YouTube. Look up John Barron. I forget the other name. And it's like, you could just listen to it and you can hear it's, there's other circumstantial evidence that points to this being Trump. Like John Barron didn't actually exist, et cetera, and it was like an alias. But you can go and actually like find these tapes online. It's so fucking funny. It just like adds credence to the notion he's like a total narcissist.
From any of the teenagers, that's still wrong because teens can't consent to that?
You gonna tell me that the parents of the teenagers aren't there either? I mean, I wouldn't send my kid to a pageant by themselves.
Do you think that a parent can consent to a teenager being perved on by an old man?
If they were telling me that's the whole point of a beauty pageant is people looking at teenagers glammed up, dude. I don't know what else to tell you. I think they're weird in the first place.
So this guy, he's not really engaging with Dean's question, but he has established what he personally believes. I'm assuming he's a Trump supporter. He's probably gonna like avoid giving a direct answer to incriminate or make Trump look bad. So you can point out like issues with his logic, but we can also kind of recognize what he probably personally believes, the standards he has. And he recognizes, yes, beauty pageants are creepy as fuck or weird.
You're a father.
You're glorifying young women and children in the first place.
Yeah, so he's saying beauty pageants are weird in general.
You're a father of a young daughter. Do you think you have the right?
I'm not.
Is that a young son?
Yes.
Do you think that you have the right, as the father of that son, to consent to having older people take pictures of your son while your son is naked?
If I was dumb enough to send my kid in, it's no different than a baby commercial for diapers.
Can you answer my question? Do you think that you have the right to consent to 65-year-old men looking at your son while he's naked?
I wouldn't allow it.
Do you think that you have the right? Do you think that you have the right to allow it? Do you think?
Yeah, so there's the logical breakdown and then the, okay, what are we presuming or using inferences? What are we can already establish this guy is probably logically inconsistent and sweeping for Trump, right? Within the frame of the argument. But who this guy is as a person, does he actually believe something like that is okay? The evidence would suggest otherwise. He's just indicated he thinks beauty pageants are weird and creepy. He's just indicated that he wouldn't allow a situation like the hypothetical that Dean's just laid out to happen for his kid. But he's not going to give a direct answer for the sake of either sweeping for Trump or not having to back down on his original argument. Not because he genuinely believes that that would be okay. So the guy might be logically inconsistent, the guy might be stupid, but he's not a danger to his kids.
If you did allow it, that you would be violating the consent of your child?
They have no choice in the matter whatsoever. It's my decision as the parent. And I wouldn't put my kid in that situation. That's why I think pageants are weird in the first place. I would never...
Yeah, then we have this performative part.
Boatman 91096. All right, it's gonna be like, what's your name?
So don't worry, move the goalpost too, by the way.
That's public, by the way. Maybe he's like his local CP and trying to do this. Can like grab his profile picture. Anybody. By the way, this is all screen recorded over on the YouTube stream. So I'll leave him up here for a little bit longer, so you guys can get his profile picture, get his name. Goatman, feel free to unmute. Is there any information? Maybe even like his following list here. Is there any information that you'd like to give us about yourself? Maybe.
What did he say that was crazy? By the way, he didn't say anything was crazy. It was what he didn't say that would show like. Where you could be like, oh, well, the things that you're not saying, that you're not, like, Dean could argue that, like, it would logically follow if you're refusing to answer the question, the easy to answer question of being able to consent to your kid doing what was outlined in the hypothetical, then we could probably assume that you think, like, you could possibly consent to that, even if you'd be personally against it. And that's a crazy thing to say. So you might want to change your logic there. But the guy's direct refusal to answer shows he probably doesn't really believe that. He just doesn't want to answer because he's going to have to lose the argument by answering. So he's just going to give his personal subjective opinion. I wouldn't allow it, right? But that indicates to us he's not for it. So he's not a danger.
What state you live in, what your name is, any information like that?
Everyone Aiden likes, I do not like Dan. Maybe I did like him. I don't remember. I think he made good I think he's made good arguments or good points, but he's come off as some like sterile, like inhuman, like Democrat Party shill that like is like kind of a caricature of like your liberal Gen Z or whatever the fuck.
Oh yeah, I live in Wisconsin. I have my kid. You're not going to do what you think you're going to do. I don't know what your intent is here.
Okay.
You're doxing someone because you're paid.
What's your name?
My name's Thomas.
So Thomas from Wisconsin. What's your last name?
You're not entitled to that.
Okay, so Thomas from Wisconsin. That's a really good start. So he's from Wisconsin.
Yep.
Is your name Thomas or Nicholas?
No.
Your name's not Nicholas?
So hang on.
So instead of trying to clarify before he's calling CPS or doxing this guy and putting him through everything that would entail, instead of trying to clarify or pin down what this guy really does believe, so he's not getting it wrong. Dean's not interested in that, by the way. Dean's not interested in just double checking if this guy is actually going to be a danger to his kids, and not that the guy just wasn't like being logically inconsistent or doing a misspeak. Dean doesn't care. He's found a point he could get blood on. He's now going in for blood, right? Which is super fucking irresponsible to put someone through. Even if they're logically inconsistent, even if they're sweeping for Trump, etc., etc. Like, surely you would want to confirm that this person is who you think they are. But I don't even think Dean thinks this guy's a danger to his kids.
So you said that I.
Okay. So his name is Nicholas.
No, it's not actually. That's funny.
Okay, great. So you guys have now gotten everything that you need. Just know that like I'm totally fine with you guys making that report. I mean, I think that we can all agree here that we care about.
So he's incited them to do it. He's not taking the time to clarify this guy's actually a danger to his kids, but he's now off of this potential logical conclusion that if anything would just show logical inconsistency as opposed to like a genuine belief or standard. He's now indicated to his chat this guy's a potential or active danger to his kid. He's incited his chat to call CPS and law enforcement over this. That is crazy.
And that was a father that said that he believes he has every right to exploit and traffic his child, and that the child has no say. So I don't mind if you guys take that information out. Don't post this on the internet. Keep this information with the authorities. You know, don't post.
And even I don't even know if the guy's still in the call. Even if he did believe something crazy like that, if somebody comes to me and they say to me, I believe that parents have the right to do whatever they want. I said, what if a parent punches their kid in the face? Do they have a right to do that? And he says to me, I think technically they do have a right, but I think that harms the kid. I'm against that, and I wouldn't do it. I think the guy's a nutcase, but I wouldn't think he's an active danger to his kid because he's indicated a standard to me, but he's indicated that under that standard, he's personally against the action and would not perpetrate it. So if he's not perpetrating it, he's not a danger to his kids, giving me no basis for making a call to CPS. Dean knows this. Dean very well knows this, which is why I'm like not being charitable to him here. I think he did this to be performative, which makes it like all the more disgusting.
This information on the internet. Use any information that you're able to find to go to the authorities. I fully support that. I don't support turning around and posting it on the internet. Take it to the authorities. And anybody in the chat who says that was too far, I very strongly and staunchly disagree with you. I don't think that that's too far. I think that
he thinks that the theoretical conclusion is enough to indicate that this guy, the theoretical conclusion that would be reached by this guy's logic or omission would be warrants the assumption that he's a danger to his children, and therefore we should call CPS, jeopardize his fatherhood, put the kid through that. Okay, the kid's gonna get interviewed by CPS, right? All like that. That is crazy, dude. Crazy.
Is a responsible obligation that any good person in society would have to do. We have an obligation to look out for our children. We really do. We really do, you guys. So
and then he's doing the concern trolling. He's putting under the guise of like, you're not concerned for kids. If you were concerned for kids, you would be double checking what this guy actually believes, triple checking, making sure he's not an active or future danger to his kid before you're going to put the family through the strain of something like that and the kid through interviews with CPS, etc., etc. You're obviously going to want to figure out he means what you actually think he means.
Yeah, and make sure that we're double.
Yeah. So I guess Dean now is a response over that to that, I guess. I don't know what the original post here claimed. That is not what he said. He said in the video that he would not put his child into that hypothetical situation. Yeah, he did say that, which would indicate he's not a present risk to his kids. Sarah is right here, unfortunately. He said that he wouldn't do it, but he retains the right to. And he used this as justification for an older man that actually did perv on naked teenagers in their dressing room. Even if he says he retains he didn't say he retained the right to, yeah, that would be the conclusion, right? But his specific wording, like, the thing is, Dean's like totally in this, like, thinking like, okay, well, with what he's just given, the premises he's just given, you could logically conclude this. And it's like, yeah, you could. That would be sound and valid, a valid logical conclusion. But you're assuming that this guy is actually analyzing his own logic to the same extent you're doing, which he probably is not, right? Which is probably why he's hesitant to give a direct answer and avoiding the question, because he probably knows he's gonna have to bite the bullet on that argument. But just the statement of him saying I wouldn't do that, and saying he thinks beauty pageants and shit are weird because you have to, etc., these all indicate that that he is not an active, present, or future threat to the welfare of his child. Therefore, there was no valid ground to be concerned for that child's welfare, and to the point where you were willing to incite a chat to go and call CPS or law enforcement. Sarah, this is not the hill to die on. Not only is this harmful rhetoric for the safety of children, but also has caused people to start labeling me as a pedo for defending children against possible exploitation. I know you're better than that. She's not better than this. I don't know why Dean would say that. She is not better than this. But also, dude, there's no shot, dude. Sarah was one of the main people, like, spearheading a bunch of fucking unconfirmed, basically, like, insinuating that Harry Sison was a predator for being a fuckboy, like his former friend. And I was like, with all the like bad faith actors going against Dean or Harry right now, you would think Dean would like come to his friend's aid here. While still he could also condemn the actions, but his friend kind of needs him to. He doesn't deserve to be labeled like a predator or a pedo or anything. Not only that, Dean is like actually thinks highly or thinks better of some of the main people that spearheaded those allegations. This guy's a snake. Yeah, so even if the guy's logic doesn't follow, he clearly doesn't have any present or future intent to do the thing that you've outlined in your hypothetical. Therefore, there's no valid ground to call CPS. Therefore, your incitement for your chat to call CPS was entirely unwarranted, entirely unfounded, and just totally deranged. But he goes on to respond again. After some thought, I believe that what he said was extremely bad, and given the full context of the conversation, what he said is made even worse. He defends Trump looking at teenagers while naked, given that their parents were okay with it. But with that said, my response here to my community was not it. I could have handled it significantly better. And so even if the guy did believe this, right, like I said before, the guy was probably sweeping for Trump, your response was totally disproportionate. My response to my community was not it. I could have handled it significantly better and dropped the ball. I'll absolutely acknowledge that. So it wasn't just that Dean incited them to call CPS. It's that the guy actually went on to clarify that that wasn't what he meant. So if there was any room for uncertainty to indicate that he would do something like this to his kids, right, the guy actually clarifies, that's not what I'm saying. And Dean doesn't follow up. Dean doesn't follow up, which kind of demonstrates to me that Dean himself, at that point, might have realized, would probably believe there was potentially a misunderstanding or like some bad logic, but that probably isn't what the guy meant. But Dean didn't follow up because he had his mind made and he wanted blood, which just makes this like so fucking scummy. Here's a couple, husband and wife, many on the right have chosen to label as innocent.
That was said was, here's Donald Trump walking into the changing rooms of these naked teens, and what was your first response to that?
Did the parents give consent? Did they allow it?
Goatman, precisely. I don't.
Yeah, so that's insane. Unless it's like a doctor or they're a newborn baby or something, parents should not be able to consent to grown men looking at their unclothed child. Obviously. This guy is like an insane, like, sweeper defender of Trump, right? That would be my conclusion from that. He'll say or do anything to defend Trump, even if it's morally inconsistent or logically inconsistent with his own values that he would apply to himself, right? You have this problem with a lot of Trump support, which Dean would know, right? Because he actively argues with them all day. These people will orient even preconceived beliefs they had about things that were wrong just so they could keep defending Trump. The clip Dean played was not about Miss Teen USA. He was arguing the Miss Teen USA clips but he also pulls up this clip.
A past
Or
interview.
not clips, allegations, right? There were allegations relating to Trump walking into a dressing room in regards to Miss Teen USA, but there's also controversy involving a tape that came out on Howard Stern.
With Howard Stern now making headlines.
And he plays this.
Trump talking about how he had free reign at his beauty pageants.
I'll go backstage before a show. Yes. And everyone's getting dressed and ready. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Today, a former Miss Arizona who calls herself a conservative, going public in an interview with KCBS, describing what she says happened backstage with Trump at a Miss USA pageant.
Okay, got it. So Dean's making a conflation here. So there's allegations Trump walked into a dressing room with changing teenage girls. There's allegations, and then there's admission that Trump walked into a dressing room in other pageants that he was a part involving adult women. So no, the teen part is like actually totally alleged. The other part though is indicative of a perv, right? But the teen part is actually not confirmed. So Dean is also conflating these two things. Okay, but anyway, back to the clip. So Dean's responded with this. Here's a couple, a husband and wife. Many on the right have chosen to label as innocent.
Like the very first thing that was said was, here's Donald Trump walking into the changing rooms of these naked teens. And what was your first response to that?
Did the parents give consent? Did they allow it?
Yes. So as I stated before we were so rudely interrupted, that is an insane thing to say. That is a crazy thing to say. But my assumption would be he's doing it not because he believes it's okay, but because he wants to sweep for Trump. This is what Trump supporters do. They will change their preconceived standards and preconceived values they held if continuing to hold on to them would make Trump look bad, right? So what this indicates is this guy is probably sweeping for or trying to make Trump or trying to not have to bite the bullet that Trump is bad, right? Doesn't indicate that this guy is actually adopting that standard himself or with his own law. You'd have to assume that Trump supporters have consistent standards to believe that this statement makes this guy a danger to his kids. But Dean, who I bet if we went through his backlog, has probably argued Trump supporters don't have consistent standards, should know that this guy is probably just shifting what he believes in to not have to disavow Trump. Not that he actually thinks he can go and do the thing that Dean mentioned in his hypothetical.
Goatman, precisely. I don't think that a parent can allow for their underage teen to be perved on.
You don't think, or that's the law? There's a difference. There's a huge difference. What's the law?
Wait, are you... So no, that's actually not the law. What
is the law, Dean? What is the age of consent? What is the law?
We're talking about teenagers, under 18 here.
Right, and they don't have the legal authority to make that consent. So whose responsibility is it then? Who is it? Is it God? It's not God.
That's insane. That's insane. What they're arguing is insane. The logical conclusion of what they're arguing is because the kid's under 18, you can just like consent to them getting perved on. Right? That's insane. But they're probably not arguing that because they actually believe it. They're arguing it because they want to defend Trump, and they have to bite an insane bullet in the course of this discussion to do that, right? So before you go and incite your chat to call CPS, you would want to triple check that this is a case of is this a case of people who actually believe this, or is this a case of Trump supporters having inconsistent values to the point where they're literally willing to bite the bullet on like insane shit that they would have otherwise conceded wasn't okay? And anyone who knows these people, how these people operate, could probably assume it's the latter. To assume it's the former, and if the former is going to lead to that call to CPS, you're going to want to be triple checking, which Dean does not do.
Who is it?
So the child can't consent to sex, and the parent can't consent to the child having sex.
So where does the consent fall? Because
nobody.
When you go to the doctor's office, when kids go on field trips, who's signing the papers? Because it's not the child. From my research, statements from the girl specifically that he went and saw it in the changing room said that it was more transactional than anything. If anything, because these girls are competing against each other, they went to Donald Trump when he was back there to get some sort of not promote.
Yeah, this is crazy. These people are morons. Actual fucking morons. Actual fucking idiots. In a cult, probably. You could say all that. Danger to their kids? No, we have nothing to conclude that so far.
But like to get some sort of like feedback and transactional advice from the guy because he's a businessman. This is exactly what these women
In the changing room? Yeah, they want a transaction. First of all, once again, the allegations of teens are just allegations, but Trump's admitted to walking into other dressing rooms.
that were back there have said on BuzzFeed. I've
Wait,
seen
wait,
it.
wait.
I read it.
What do you mean it was transactional when he's
They
walking
were
down
trying
the
to
naked
get.
teenage
It was
girls?
transactional in a business sense. It was
Can you
transactional in
explain
a
that to us?
business. Yes, I can, because Trump is a businessman. He has a huge persona, publicly business essential. The girls were trying to get his.
Adult child, what difference does it make? Okay, even if it was an adult, it's still pervy as fuck, right? But arguably, with a teen, it would be worse, right? I'm not here to defend Trump. If you know like anything about me, I'm obviously not here to defend Trump.
Input and get him to like promote or like give them advice on how to.
They're children.
Best
They were
get-
naked. They can't consent to that.
Dean,
How do you know they was naked, Dean?
Well, I mean, I think that both you and your wife have made a handful of things clear in this conversation. You have now redefended Trump 3 times, walking into a changing room with naked teenage girls by saying that the parents consented. You even then agreed to this for a 4th time as it related to the question that Jerry just asked you, once again reaffirming that they're within their rights and abilities to consent on behalf of the children for exploitation from other adults, as well as your wife, Shania. I mean, she even repeated that she believes that it was a transactional occurrence, that both parties were reaping some benefit. And in other words, she is saying that the bodies...
Yeah, so they keep saying by law. So these people are fucking stupid, and they think that legally what he did was allowed, but they're even saying we wouldn't, like, as if it's wrong morally, right? They don't seem intelligent enough to be like, morally speaking, but they do say, well, what you think or by law, and they even clarify that it's not what they think, right? So they're speaking in a purely legal context, not in a context of what they ought to do or what they would do, right? So once again, not only is there nothing to suggest that they are an active or present danger to their children, at least to their children's physical well-being, in regards to their children's intelligence. That one's up for debate, right? But being a danger to your children's intelligence isn't against the law. But in regards to them being a physical, present, and active or future danger to their kids, it is not only unfounded, but it's also actively contradicted by like the nature of their statements. They distinguish their legal versus moral opinions by saying by law or what you think. They specifically clarify they wouldn't do that with their kids, what Dean has outlined in his hypothetical. So, yeah, there was no basis to incite the chat to call CPS.
The naked bodies of children are transactional?
Dean, answer the question. By law, is that exploitation?
I think that is exploitation, yeah.
Do you think Brooke Shields was...
Dean, I think words come out of my mouth.
Do you think Brooke
Those
Shields
words come out of my mouth?
when she posed on a Calvin Klein poster underage, holding her breast without a shirt on?
Who did that?
And
Because that's
everybody
wrong. They
who
should have done
looked at
that.
it?
It's wrong. Bad. Don't do that.
Was she exploited?
Yes.
By what law?
What? Wait. Now we're talking about some, like, actual naked...
She was on Times Square.
Yeah, we're talking about some underage naked teenager with her boobs out in Times Square. Exploitation. She's exploited.
And do you think that...
Law.
Do you guys disagree? Like, naked teenager with her boobs out on Times Square, was she exploited?
Yes.
I think it's art. I think it's
calling it
a
art.
beautiful photo.
Now they're calling it beautiful.
Of a beautiful...
These people are totally nuts. These people have shitty opinions, which they're entitled to under the First Amendment, in regards to being an active and present danger to their kids. Yeah. Just, he totally wrong, and he's fucking insane, and he's a horrible representation for the libs, and I just wish we can get some, like, normal, decent debaters back on the liberal side online, but this just adds to one of the many laundry lists of reasons that I don't like Dean.